Hello there, and thanks so much for joining me for another tutorial. I'm Erin Eno, and today we're going to be painting this super loose wildflower bouquet. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more tutorials like this one, please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to know when I have new tutorials out. Now grab your paints and let's get started. Today I'll be painting in my Artisto watercolor sketchbook. It's a cellulose paper, but it is 140 pounds. I have my Royal Talons Van Gogh paints in my palette, a jar of water, and a paper towel. And I have 3 brushes. I'm not really sure what brushes I'm going to be using, but I grabbed a Princeton Neptune in a size 4 round and a Curry's 2400 series in a size 6 round. And I have a Princeton Snap in a size 2 round. I may grab other brushes, I don't know, but this is what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to start with my Princeton Neptune. And you can have fun with this one because although it's going to be wildflowers, it's not going to be any specific wildflowers. So we just get to pick the colors we want. And I'm going to start with a purple, which I'm going to I'm going to water it down. I'm just trying to decide if I should mute it down a little bit, but I don't think I will. I'm going to leave it as is. And it is Permanent Blue Violet is the color that I'm using. I'm just going to start off with a few simple flowers. Not any flowers in particular. I'm just going to do a 5-petal flower, just like that. And I think I will add another one to that, maybe down around here. The idea with this is that we just get to kind of put in whatever we want. The only thing we have to keep in mind is that we just kind of want to balance it out. I don't want to stress too much over a composition, but you don't want like a clump of purple flowers and then a big space and a clump of red flowers over here. So it's kind of a quick little lesson in some composition as well. So I'm going to rinse and dry off my brush, and I'm going to go into that purple and just tap some in. Actually, I'll deepen it up a little bit. Okay, but I just want very little on my brush. I'm just going to tap some in towards the center, just so we get some different variations in this purple, like so. I'm going to rinse and dry off my brush, and if some areas aren't bleeding, you can just kind of go in and kind of pull that color down. And we'll go in and put centers on them in a little while as well, but for now we're just going to kind of plunk in flowers. And I'm keeping the majority of the bouquet towards the upper half of the page because I do want the stems to be to play a little bit of a role in this composition. So now I think I'll bring in some yellow. So I'm going to take some Azo Yellow Medium, and it's quite bright. It's actually a little too bright. So I'm going to dull that down with some raw umber, just very little of it, just so you can kind of see it on the page a little more. Sometimes if it's too bright a yellow, it kind of gets lost on the page. So I'm going to just do some simple, roundish kind of flowers. Just like so. Not even flowers, they're more like little buds. And maybe I'll put one out here just to kind of balance things out a bit. So as we get into this and you start laying your flowers down, you're going to see what you need to do to balance them. Okay, so I've got some purple in there. And then I just wanted to offset that with another brighter color, which is the yellow. And I didn't want just yellow there, so I just tucked a little bit of it in here. And while that's still wet, I'm going to go into a green. I've got kind of a muddy green here. I'm going to brighten it up with this sap green. I'm just going to tap most of the water off my brush. And I'm just going to tap the tips of these, or the base of each of these little yellow flowers, like so. And that will bleed in. If it doesn't bleed in too much, that's okay. And we're going to put stems on these, but I want to hold off on the stems till we get a few other things established in the piece. So maybe we will put in a pink flower. So I'm going to use my rose for this. And we'll just do the same thing with the pink ones. We'll just do some simple 5-petal flowers. Nothing fancy. They're not the best looking flowers, but that's okay. And maybe we'll do a little pink bud over here too, just to bring some of that pink out here. So now what I want to do is kind of bring this up a little bit. So I'm going to take some red. Let's go with some red. So I've got some carmine here. Actually, that is not my carmine. Here's my carmine. I'm going to add some Madder Lake Deep to that too, just to deepen it up. The carmine was still a little pinkish, and I want this fairly red, because it's getting quite soft now. I want a nice kind of bold color in here. So I'm just going to do these kind of maybe rough little flowers, almost like a jagged tulip. Maybe we'll pop some over here. Yeah, you know what? Let's just put one right here. Now, I like odd numbers in my florals, so I'm going to do 3 of these, and I think just to kind of balance things out, I will pop one over here. So you can see they're not anything special. They literally are just like jagged little tulips. And I think what I will do now is bring in another yellow, another hit of yellow down here. So we'll do that same yellow kind of stem that we did. Just like that. Again, I'll go in with that green, but not a lot of water on my brush, and just hit the base of these. Now what I think I will add in is something kind of like lavender, but we're going to do it in blue. So I'm going to use Prussian blue with a little hit of indigo. And I'm going to start with kind of a medium wash, or light to medium wash. And I'm going to do like a little lavender shape. That's a lot of water on my brush. Okay, so it's going to have that kind of cone shape. I'm saying lavender. I mean lilac. I'm sorry, you guys. I mean lilac, not lavender at all. And I'm going to put one here. And once this is done, I think I'll start putting some stems in so we can kind of see how things are balancing out with some greenery. But I will just dry off my brush, go into this mixture without watering it down, and just tap this in where we had our little kind of lilac looking flower, like so. We can go add to that if we want, add some depth to the middle if we feel it needs more. I just don't want to do it while it's still really wet because it'll just kind of fade out into nothing. Actually, you know what? Before we go further, I'm going to add centers to these first few flowers that we put down. Just going to put a few little dots around of sepia. Sorry, I forgot to mention this is sepia. Once that dries, we can go in and put a different color in the middle just to brighten it up a bit. But I do want to start going in and getting some stems in there. So I'm going to go to that sap green. It's got a little bit of permanent blue violet in it. I was using it earlier, so it's not quite a vivid sap green, but we're just going to start putting in some stems now. Taking these all the way up to our flowers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross. I'm always going to keep this a little crisscross in the middle because we're going to put a little tie in the stems, which means I don't want paint here. That was a mistake. Let's get rid of that. Easily fixed. Okay, and I'm going to join these guys up now, I think. So I'm just putting stems between those little flowers to join them up. And it's loose, so don't stress if you have wobbly lines. Just like so. I'm gonna mix a little bit more sap green in there just to make it a little deeper. And we're gonna join up, let's join up these guys now. I think I should be using a smaller brush. I'm gonna go down to my size 2, just to be safe. And we'll just put my hands in the wet blue flowers there. So I'm just gonna draw a stem down here. And a stem out to the rest of the little red flowers. Oh, that was a fat stem. I was doing better with my other brush. You can go down to a size 0 if you want for this too. So when you bring your stem down, don't forget to leave that space where we're going to put that little tie in. And you don't literally have to do a stem to every flower. We're going to do our little bud here. Put some green around him, like that. And then, oh, look at that. I missed the center on one of these flowers. There we go, no harm done. Now I'm going to go back to my size 4 Neptune. We're going to start putting in some leaves and some greenery. So I'm just going to do, let's do a stem of leaves coming out here. So we'll do yellow stem. I want that a little darker than that. I don't want the leaves to overtake, but we do want enough green in here that it's got some life and that it doesn't just look like, you know, a bunch of dried flowers. I didn't want that. And we can put some greenery up here. Let's do another leaf coming off of that. We can do some leaves. Quick little short leaves coming off that red plant, or red, yeah, it's a plant. So we're just kind of playing here. Because I'm not using realistic flowers, you can do whatever you like. We can go back in and add some lines to these leaves just to give them some life. I think what I will do is go to my smaller brush again, go into that green, put some little curved green stems in. Just like that, maybe tuck one up here. You can put some dots at the end. I always like to do that, just kind of gives them a little bit of life. We will have another one. Just a short one come out of here. So now what I want to do is, I think, just to go back into this kind of lilac-y plant and just fill it in a little bit with some darker areas. We're not going to get rid of all that light. You don't want to flatten it right out. Okay, just here and there. Keeping it nice and loose. And I think what I will do is kind of mimic that and make it look like there's another one kind of tucked in here. Maybe we'll kind of tuck it right back here. When you do this, make sure your yellow flowers, or whatever flowers you have there, are dry. So whatever flowers you're painting up against, you want to make sure they're dry before you go in and do something right beside it, obviously, or they will bleed together. But I just thought a nice little pop of that blue in there would kind of balance things out. I may go in and even darken that up again. But I think now that this is dry, we're going to go in with just my size 2 brush. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre to that yellow mixture. And I'm just going to tap it in the middle of these flowers. And while I'm at it with the small brush, I'm just going to go in and paint some kind of texture. On these guys, just so they don't look so flat. Okay, I'm just doing quick little lines, nothing too planned out. Looks like they're still a little damp. Don't forget to put some on this little bud. Now we'll do the same thing with the purple. Nothing too crazy, just a little bit of deeper color just to kind of bring it to life a bit. So have fun with this one. Pick whatever colors you want. See how that blue is kind of faded out? So I think I'm going to go in with even heavier pigment and just tap around a bit. I don't want it too dark, but I want it to look like it's got some depth. And some shape to it. But I don't want to go crazy because I don't want it to overtake from all the other flowers. I'm just going to tap a little bit of that up. Just like that. Now I think with that blue, it needs a little something else to kind of balance, kind of heading off that way. So I think what I will do is just put the tiniest pop of that blue. Whoops, oh, I had a lot of yellow on my brush still. And just do a little bit that's peeking out here. You could even just put in a whole new blue flower. I'm just trying to balance things out visually. And I'm just going to fill in here just with a bit of green, just so it looks full. We can even just make some stems coming from there just to kind of fill it in. Maybe heavy up some of these stems. So I've just added that blue mixture to the green just to get some different values in the stems. And I'm trying to decide if I want to put more leaves in here or not. Maybe we'll heavy up these leaves. Tuck some kind of green in there just to fill the space up a bit. And oh, you know what? Maybe we'll do some quick little leaves up here. So that's getting to be a pretty full bouquet. But paintings like this are fun because you can just kind of, you can go crazy. So I kind of left the leaves and the greenery a little late in the painting process because you can use it as filler. Okay, I didn't want to just go in right away and start plunking down a bunch of leaves. But wanted to get the flowers in there first. Then you can fill in with the leaves. So it's just a nice loose painting to have a go at. And they're kind of fun just to, you know, keep adding to it, have some fun. It's pretty relaxing. You can just tap in some green where you think it might be lacking a little bit. I think what I will do is just take this red, because right now I see this bouquet and I see red, red, red. So I'm just going to tap a little bit of red in here just to make it seem like there might be another one of those red flowers tucked in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just have one just peek out just a little bit. Because this isn't realistic and it's loose, this is where you can just go in and kind of tap those colors in to balance things out. Now what I do find is those blue flowers have faded quite a bit. So I'm going to take indigo, straight indigo, I think. You know what? No, I'll put a little bit of Prussian blue in there. Why not? I like how the Prussian blue kind of just calms the indigo down, doesn't make it so dark. It just kind of brightens it up a bit. So I'm just going to tap a little bit in here. And if it ends up being too much, we can mop some of it up with our paper towel. But I just wanted it kind of deeper towards the center because it just looked like everything was kind of drying a little flat on them. Just come right up to that pink flower. I'm not going to do too much darkness on this one out here because I wanted to keep that kind of light. And it's this one that's in the back there that's going to be the darkest in the shade, okay? Not that we're painting realistically, but I just wanted it to kind of visually make a little bit of sense. So I think that's all we're going to do. I do think that maybe we could stand to have a few little leaves just peeking out at the top, and maybe a little grassy thing coming out there. I could go on forever, but I just find this really kind of relaxing. So now I'm going to leave the bouquet at that. It's nice and full. And we're going to do a little tie here. It kind of came in a little far with this green. Luckily, because this is a non-cotton paper, it lifts quite easily. Okay, so then I'm going to mix up. I think I will mix up burnt sienna. Maybe I'll take some burnt sienna, add it into this yellow here. Because I want just kind of like a raffia kind of color. But I want to dull that down. So I'm going to take some neutral tint. I might have muddied it up a little bit too much. I think that'll be good. And we're just going to do a little tie of like a raffia kind of bow. I don't like this. Mop that up. I'm just going to take the very tip of my brush. Just get a bit of that sepia in there. I don't want it to bleed too much at this point. That's too dark. I don't like that. Let's start over. So instead of adding another color, I'm just going to deepen it up with just another layer of that same color. It's a little wet. I'm being impatient. I really should just go back in when it's dry, but it's okay. It's loose and it's rough. It's all good. Bring some of these stems down a little bit. I'm just going to take my heat tool to that little raffia tie so I can go in and kind of just put a little texture on it. Okay, that should be dry enough. So I think I do want to go in with the sepia, or at least a mixture of the sepia and this raffia kind of color. So just with my size 2, I'm just going to make it look like this is kind of tied around. It's got a little bit of depth to it. Certainly not realistic, you know. But just a little something, so it didn't look so flat. I'm just going to put some in that kind of pile of stems too, just to give it some depth. So all those stems, when they come together, they would be a little dark, so why not? It actually looks like twine now, which is even better. So we'll leave it at twine. Okay, so I'm going to call this done. This was kind of fun to play around with. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that you found it helpful, and I hope you'll give this a try. It's just a fun way to kind of get your bearings on how to balance things out and just play and relax. So that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care, and I'll see you next time.